There was a moment in your life when someone looked at you and said, "You're too sensitive." And maybe they didn't shout it. Maybe they laughed when they said it. Maybe they rolled their eyes. Maybe they said it softly, like advice. But it stuck. Not because it was loud, but because you believed it. You started replaying moments in your head. Maybe I did overreact. Maybe I take things too personally. Maybe I need thicker skin. And slowly, without realizing it, you began editing yourself. You laughed less loudly. You stopped asking certain questions. You swallowed words before they reached your mouth. You told yourself, it's not a big deal, even when it was. But here's something nobody told you. Sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness. And awareness in a world that survives on emotional numbness will always look like too much. You noticed tone shifts before other people did. You felt distance in someone's voice before they admitted it. You sensed tension in a room even when everyone else pretended everything was fine. You weren't dramatic. You were observant. But when you live in a world that avoids discomfort, the person who feels deeply becomes the problem. Because awareness forces truth, and truth makes people uncomfortable. Think about it. When someone says something hurtful, most people brush it off. But you don't just hear the words, you hear the intention. You hear the insecurity behind it. You hear the frustration that had nothing to do with you. You don't just see behavior, you see patterns. You don't just feel your emotions, you absorb the atmosphere. That's not weakness, that's perception. But perception without protection becomes exhaustion, and that's where it started hurting. You walked into rooms and immediately felt responsible for the energy. If someone was quiet, you wondered if you did something wrong. If someone was upset, you tried to fix it. If someone pulled away, you blamed yourself. Because when you feel deeply, you assume deeply too. And slowly, you trained yourself to shrink. Not because you were wrong, but because you were tired of being told you were too much. You started telling yourself, don't cry, don't react, don't say anything, just let it go. And sometimes you did, but it didn't disappear, it just went inward. And when emotions go inward long enough, they turn into self-doubt. Here's the truth most people won't admit. The world benefits from emotionally unaware people. They don't question behavior. They don't notice inconsistency. They don't call out subtle disrespect. They don't challenge surface-level connections. But you do. And that makes you inconvenient. Not difficult, inconvenient. Because you can't pretend not to see what you see. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been told, you think too much? It's not that deep. You're reading into it. You're overanalyzing. And later, you turned out to be right? That's not coincidence. That's pattern recognition. Your brain isn't overreacting. It's connecting dots faster than other people. But when nobody validates that ability, you start doubting your own perception. And that's when awareness turns against you. You stop trusting your instincts. You ignore red flags. You give second chances to things your gut already rejected. You silence intuition in the name of being chill. And every time you do that, you betray yourself. Not loudly, quietly. And repeated quiet betrayals slowly disconnect you from who you are. But here's what changed everything for me. One day I realized the same people who called me too sensitive were the same people who avoided accountability. The same people who said, it's not that serious, were the same ones who never sat with their own emotions. The same people who told me to relax were the ones who exploded when something bothered them. And suddenly, it wasn't that I was too sensitive. It was that they were too disconnected. Emotionally aware people live differently. They notice pauses in conversation. They remember small details. They feel shifts in dynamics. They sense when someone is pretending. And that kind of perception is powerful. But only if you stop apologizing for it. Sensitivity becomes a strength the moment you stop using it to attack yourself. It becomes emotional intelligence when you learn boundaries. Because awareness without boundaries is self-sacrifice. But awareness with boundaries, that's power. You can feel deeply without absorbing everything. You can understand someone's pain without making it yours. You can notice tension without fixing it. You can see red flags without explaining them away. You can trust your instincts without proof. Because awareness doesn't always need evidence. Sometimes it just needs courage. And here's something most people never realize. The world needs emotionally aware people. We need the ones who notice when someone is struggling. We need the ones who sense when something is off. We need the ones who feel deeply enough to care. But emotionally aware people must learn to care without collapsing. That's the difference. You were never too sensitive. You were just aware in environments that rewarded emotional suppression. You were perceptive in rooms where pretending was survival. You were honest in spaces that preferred comfort over truth. And awareness in those spaces will always look like too much. But here's the shift. Stop shrinking your awareness to make others comfortable. Instead, strengthen your boundaries to protect your awareness. That's growth, not becoming numb, becoming stable. There's a difference between reacting from wounds and responding from awareness. You can feel something deeply without exploding. You can acknowledge hurt without drowning in it. You can't speak truth without attacking. That's maturity, not emotional suppression. The goal was never to feel less. It was to regulate better. To understand your emotions without letting them control you. To trust your perception without assuming the worst. To care without carrying. And that's a skill, not a personality flaw. Imagine what would happen if you stopped apologizing for feeling deeply. If instead of saying, "Sorry, I'm just sensitive," you said, "I value emotional clarity." If instead of doubting your intuition, you refined it. If instead of shrinking, you stood grounded. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Because when you know who you are, you don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to defend your emotional depth. You don't need to argue with people who operate on numbness. You simply choose better environments, better conversations, better connections. And here's the final truth. The problem was never your sensitivity. The problem was giving access to people who didn't know how to handle depth. Not everyone deserves your awareness. Not everyone deserves your emotional energy. Not everyone deserves explanations. So the next time someone says, "You're too sensitive," smile and understand something quietly powerful. You feel what they avoid. You see what they ignore. You process what they suppress. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. You were never too sensitive. You were just aware. And awareness, when protected properly, is one of the strongest traits a person can have.